Now you guys can hear me. Oh my god. You'll have to forgive me. My ass rushed home knowing I had to stream. And yeah. Hold on, I don't think I want to do display capture. I think what I want to do is, give me 1 second, y'all. Let's see here. Oh. Okay, 1 second, 1 second. Add browser. Wait. I never understand how... I suppose I could do it this way, but... I never remember how to do it properly. Bear with me, y'all. I am no professional storyteller. Fuck it. Okay, I'll just load up comments over here on Twitch. An update, bruv. Why is there always an update? Actually. Okay, webcam. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to do transform. Why won't it let me? What do you mean? Oh, because it's locked. I knew that. Okay. All right. This music is scary, bro. Can turn that off. Congrats on being first, brother boy. Bro, no, I'm trying to load my fucking... Hang on. Eating and watching, let's go. I love that for you, Kelly. Oh my god, I just like fresh out of the shower and all. I don't know which one looks interesting. I lost my soul in a game, but I still got what I wanted. Internal log. This one looked kind of interesting. Internal log entry 20658. What do we think of that one? I'm not sure which one seems the most interesting, to be honest with you. The box. If you know me, you know I love the 1975, so the box immediately intrigues me. Bring people back to the dead from the dead? Oi, is this a long one? Ooh, we'll read this one. We'll read this one. Okay. This one is called The Box. So, with this dark and spooky and scary ambient music, let's get it going. The box had the power to bring people back from the dead, and it had made my dad very rich. This is going to be yours one day, so you need to listen and pay attention to everything I say and do. The box was a plain maple box with no markings, but it had a smell which was hard to describe. It smelled like something from my childhood, sweet, like cotton candy or freshly made waffles. Maple, are you in here? Because this story screams your name. When it comes to the death of a child, parents would empty their bank accounts for a chance to hug their child one last time. The grief-stricken couple had traveled from the other side of the world. The pain of losing their child from a freak accident was etched into their faces. "Did you bring what I asked you to?" my dad softly asked. For the box to work, my dad would place a recent photo, the clothes the deceased were wearing when they died, and a precious personal item into the box. This was his favorite toy. He never went anywhere without it, explained the woman. My dad placed all the items in the box before ushering the couple into another room. "What happens next?" I asked. "We sit and wait, son." The smell of warm memories filled the room as the box started to shake. My dad walked over and took the lid of the box, and a fresh-faced, blonde-haired boy was smiling up at us. His blue eyes were bright and radiant, and he smelled like a newborn baby. "Mommy? Daddy?" beamed the young boy as his parents embraced him. My dad kept a close eye on his watch as we sat in the next room. "I hate this part," said the dad with a sullen look on his face. When we entered the room, the smell of a newborn baby was replaced by the stench of rotten meat. The boy's radiant blue eyes were now black as coal, and his face deathly pale. "We explained the rules, Mrs. Jefferson. It's time," my dad said as he quickly ushered the boy's crying parents from the room. My dad left me alone in the room with the boy. I watched in horror as the boy screamed in immense pain as his bones contorted and snapped. I remembered the boy's parents telling us he died from multiple fractures when a bookcase in the family home fell on him. After the parents had left, my dad picked up the boy as he cried for his parents and carried him down the basement. As we stopped at a large steel door, my dad turned to me with a serious expression on his face. "You have to promise one thing. When I die someday, you will never bring me back." The smell of death hit me as he opened the steel door. Before throwing the boy into the room was filled with hundreds of moaning and wailing corpses, some calling out for their loved ones. It doesn't feel right just to bury them. It doesn't feel right to just bury them. Whoa. A little bit, kind of like bringing back the dead. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. That was an interesting story, though. That was pretty good, not gonna lie. Nice. That was strange and kind of unsettling. Wow, gave me chills. Nice. Okay, that was an interesting one. Nachigo Ryulo? Ranch Red, a horror story draft. My twin brother and I are inseparable even after his death. After all those years, I still can't believe I'm living this life. Whoa. One drinking night. I just gotta love the typos on this. How should I know if I'm a good doctor? All my patients are dead and so they cannot give an option. Warning, this energy drink keeps you awake. The empathy plague. Ooh, I'm all about psychological horror. Is this a long one? relatively long. I hope this is psychological, because the psychological ones always get you. Dr. Evelyn Carter massaged her temples, staring at the flickering monitor before her. The emergency room stats didn't make sense. Admissions had tripled in the past week, but the reported symptoms were vague, inconsistent. Patients complained of pain they couldn't explain, emotions that didn't seem to be their own. A knock at her office door jolted her from her thoughts. Dr. Carter? It was Sam, one of the ER nurses. His eyes were rimmed with dark circles. We've got another one. Evelyn nodded. Following Sam down the fluorescent-lit hallway, in exam room 3, a young woman sat on the edge of the bed, her whole body trembling. I'm Dr. Carter, Evelyn said softly. Can you tell me what's wrong? The woman looked up, her eyes brimming with tears. Everything hurts, but it's not my pain. I feel what they feel. She gestured wildly at the walls. All of them. Their fear, their suffering. It's too much. Evelyn frowned, jotting notes. Another case just like the others. When did this start? 2 days ago. I was at the grocery store, and suddenly, the woman's voice broke. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was drowning in everyone else's feelings. After a thorough examination and finding nothing physically wrong, Evelyn prescribed a mild sedative and arranged for a psych consult. But as she watched the woman leave, leaning heavily on a friend, a chill ran down her spine. This was the 10th such case today alone. Weeks passed, and the cases multiplied exponentially. The media dubbed it the empathy plague. Evelyn worked tirelessly, poring over data, conducting tests, searching for a cause or cure, but the illness defied conventional medicine. One morning, as Evelyn hurried through the hospital's main entrance, she nearly collided with a man rushing out. Their eyes met for a brief moment. The world tilted. Suddenly, Evelyn was drowning in a sea of foreign emotions, worry about a sick child, frustration over mounting medical bills, the sharp ache of arthritis, the hollow emptiness of grief, all crashed over her in waves. She staggered, gasping for air. Dr. Carter! Hands steadied her. Sam's face swam into view, concern etched in every line. Are you all right? Evelyn blinked, the cacophony of feelings receding to a dull roar. I think I've been infected, she whispered. Society began to crumble. Schools closed, businesses shut down. People barricaded themselves in their homes, terrified of human contact. Those who had to venture out wore dark glasses and masks, avoiding eye contact at all costs. Evelyn worked from her apartment, video conferencing with colleagues around the world. They had isolated the cause, a mutation in the mirror neuron system spread through prolonged eye contact, but a cure remained elusive. She stood at her window, watching the eerily empty streets below. A lone figure hurried past, head down. Evelyn felt a stab of their anxiety, their loneliness. She pressed her palm to the cool glass, her own isolation threatening to suffocate her. Her phone buzzed, a text from her sister Claire. Turn on the news, now. Evelyn flicked on the TV. The president's grim face filled the screen. Must take drastic action, effective immediately. A nationwide quarantine is in effect. All non-essential travel is prohibited. We must isolate to survive this plague. The words washed over her, but Evelyn barely heard them. Her mind raced. There has to be a solution, a way to... A sharp knock at her door cut through her thoughts. Evelyn hesitated, then slowly approached through the peephole. She saw a man in a crisp suit, flanked by 2 others in dark clothing. Dr. Evelyn Carter, the man called. I'm Agent Reeves with the CDC. We need you to come with us. Your expertise is crucial to a top-secret government project. Evelyn's heart pounded. She opened the door a crack, careful to avoid eye contact. What project? Agent Reeves' voice lowered. The one that started all this. The underground facility was a maze of sterile white corridors and high-tech laboratories. Evelyn's mind reeled as she absorbed the truth. A well-intentioned experiment to increase empathy in the population had mutated, spiraling out of control. We thought we could make the world a better place, Dr. Emerson, the project lead, explained. His voice was heavy with regret. Instead, we may have doomed humanity. Evelyn threw herself into the work, desperate to find a cure. Days blurred into weeks. The outside world descended further into chaos, but inside the facility, time seemed to stand still. Then, one night, Hunched over a microscope at 3 a.m., Evelyn saw it. A way to reverse the mutation. Hope surged through her, but it was quickly tempered by realization. The cure would work, but at a cost. It wouldn't just eliminate the plague, it would suppress the mirror neuron entirely. That would end the pain, the overwhelming flood of others' emotions, but in doing so, they would effectively eliminate empathy from the human brain. Evelyn sat back, her mind racing. She thought of the suffering millions, desperate for relief. She thought of a world without empathy, efficient, perhaps, but cold, unfeeling. The choice before her was impossible: end the plague and fundamentally alter humanity, or let the suffering continue in hopes that people would adapt, that this shared pain might ultimately bring the world closer together. Dang. What would you do, chat? What would you do in that instance? We got a world where your mirror neurons are affected by this plague, causing you to feel everyone's pain, and the cure would be to essentially eliminate that neuron entirely and live in a world with no empathy, or continue and suffer from everybody's thoughts and anxiety. And oh man, that's tough. That's genuinely a tough choice. I feel for her. In the sterile lab, surrounded by humming machines, Dr. Evelyn Carter faced the most important decision of her life, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Epilogue. 5 years later, Evelyn stood on her balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues. The world had changed, adapted. People still wore their protective gear in crowded places, but they had learned to balance connection and isolation. She felt the familiar undercurrent of emotions from the city around her: joy, sorrow, anxiety, love, but it no longer overwhelmed her. Humanity had grown stronger, more resilient, more understanding. Evelyn smiled, feeling at peace with her decision. The plague had brought immense suffering, but it had also fostered a deep, unprecedented connection between all people. In choosing not to use the cure, she had bet on humanity's capacity for growth and adaptation. As the last rays of sunlight faded, Evelyn felt a swell of hope from somewhere in the city. It resonated within her, a shared optimism for the future, a future where empathy, even in its most extreme form, had become humanity's greatest strength. That was actually a very solid story. Like, 10 out of 10. Like, wow. That was good, because I really love stories that, like, play with morality, and that was a good one. That was genuinely a good story that played with morality and what would you do. And Miss Dr. Evelyn Carter, she made the right choice. You know, sometimes you do have to suffer in order to come out on top of things and just be a better person. And maybe humanity needs to suffer a lot more, because there are so many people that I feel like that are like almost like either not suffering enough or just haven't learned from the suffering. So sometimes you really have to like dive deep into it, you know? Damn. Good story. Loved this. Beautiful. Way to go, Evelyn. Good choice. The last thing this world needs are more sociopaths. Thank goodness she chose right. I can't even guess at how many times in just the past week I've questioned if empathy is still a thing these days. That was a good story. A genuinely good story. Oh, I'm not even logged into my Reddit on here. But yeah, I would upvote that for sure. The Ranger flies. I just raw dogged a 1,000,000-hour flight. How is that a scary story? The Inheritance. Mr. Taint. His name is Mr. Taint, chat. Bro, what? What the fuck? That almost makes me want to read it. I mean, it's kind of short. It'll maybe take me like 2 minutes. Okay. This one's called The Inheritance, and apparently our protagonist's name is Mr. Taint. Mr. Taint had passed away, and he has so many relatives and cousins who hope to inherit from Mr. Taint. Okay, I don't like this sentence structure, but moving on. His blooded family were all so happy when Mr. Taint passed away, because they all knew he had wealth and a will that gave orders about who his wealth will be shared. Dr. Taint never really had a close relationship with his siblings, cousins, and any other relatives. He was always the black sheep, and how a death of a wealthy man rallies everyone together is the most shallowest thing you can ever witness. Not a tear was shed for Mr. Taint, but only joyous expressions were all around. When Mr. Taint's siblings and cousins all gathered around the room for the will reading on the death of Mr. Taint, nobody noticed that the doors and windows were locked. Ooh, not one had any emotional fiber to give to Mr. Taint, and everyone in that room was excited at their inheritance. As the lawyer started reading the will, there was something going to his sibling, a brother to Mr. Taint, and in the will it had read that his older brother will inherit his diabetes. Everyone looked shocked in the room. Hold on. As the lawyer started reading the will, there was something going to his sibling, a brother to Mr. Taint, and in the will it had read that his older brother will inherit his diabetes. What? Everyone looked shocked in the room. Then Mr. Taint's older brother had suddenly fainted due to the diabetes, even though Mr. Taint's older had always led a healthy lifestyle. The lawyer injected insulin into Mr. Taint's older brother. Then, when the lawyer carried on reading the will, his cousin had inherited Mr. Taint's gum disease. The cousin of Mr. Taint became frightened when his teeth fell out. Then another relative of Mr. Taint had inherited his terrible tinnitus. The relative became so disturbed by the ringing sounds. They all tried getting out of the room, but it was locked. Every one of Mr. Taint's bloodied family had inherited not material wealth, but rather one of his health conditions. A female cousin of Mr. Taint had inherited death from Mr. Taint. When she fell to the ground, Mr. Taint rose from his coffin and entered the room. He had none of his ailments and was now healthy and alive. He never did like his family, and he was a happy man now that he had no health problems. Some of his family had inherited his joint problems and migraines. Now Mr. Taint could enjoy his wealth as a healthy man, when before he was constantly at the hospital. I mean, by his blooded relatives' will fully being in the room without force, they accepted the inheritance. I'm sure if they had known beforehand that they were actually inheriting, they wouldn't have been in that room. Interesting. The sentence structure and the grammar could have been a lot better on that story, but I liked the theme of it, inheriting all the ailments of one person who was a black sheep of the family for better wealth. It almost kind of reminds me of that movie Saltburn, just a tad. But yeah, that was pretty good. Let's see. Oops. We gotta change this fucking song. What does this one sound like? That's chill ambience. Is the music too loud? I don't know if it's too loud. If it is, like, let me know. The inheritance, nah. Or not, it's not really music. It's more like ambience, but yeah. I'm a guard at Arlington Cemetery. Something just came out of the tomb of the unknown soldier. Exit number 13, part 3. The Skin Weaver? That sounds mildly intriguing. The Graves Hauler. How I Exercised Liam. This is the Way. I don't know what that is. It came to take me away. Homeless, living on my car. Whoa. Lost Media. Unseen Exposure. Hill Science. This is the true story. That seems like a very short story. The short ones are pretty good sometimes. I was sleeping at my grandmother's home. I hope that means home. Home. The place sometimes gives me the creeps, but not really. One night, I woke up suddenly. As soon as I eyes opened, I had a view of the hallway. What foo you know? I see a strands of hair walking away in the air. I got up and ran to the hallway. Nothing. I was quick, and there is no effing way that person or thing could have walked that far. Ooh. That wasn't that scary. I kind of want to go back up and read one of these. The Skin Weaver seems mildly intriguing. Ooh, perfect, 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 perfect. Okay, we're gonna read this one. The Skin Weaver. Wiz said, JK, JK. Okay, the Skin Weaver. Marcus had always been alone. His fingers, calloused from years of intricate needlework, moved deftly as he stitched together another exquisite gown. The boutique was silent, save for the whisper of thread through fabric. As he worked late into the night, a customer entered, an old woman with a knowing smile. She handed him a package wrapped in brown paper. A gift, she said, from the loneliest of artists. After she left, Marcus unwrapped the parcel to find a spool of thread unlike any he'd seen before. It shimmered with an unearthly luster, warm to the touch. Curiosity overtook him. He threaded his needle and began to sew. The thread slipped through the silk effortlessly, but as Marcus completed the first stitch, he gasped. The fabric had transformed, taking on the supple texture of human skin. Horror gripped him, yet he couldn't stop. With each stitch, the gown became more lifelike. Fingers formed at the cuffs, toes at the hem. The bodice rose and fell with phantom breaths. The bodice? I don't know if I read that wrong. Bodice. Dawn broke as Marcus made the final stitch. Before him stood not a dress, but a woman, beautiful, silent, and utterly still. Her eyes flared open. Marcus reached out, trembling. As their fingers touched, he felt a tug. His own skin began to unravel, thread by thread, pulled into the creation before him. He tried to scream, but his lips had already been sewn shut. In the empty boutique, a single figure remained. She blinked her new eyes, flexed her new fingers, and smiled with borrowed lips. Then, humming softly, the former dress began to sew. Weeks passed, and the boutique flourished under new management. Customers flocked to marvel at the lifelike creations of the enigmatic new seamstress. They whispered about her ethereal beauty, her silent grace, and the uncanny realism of her designs. But there were whispers of a darker nature, too. People spoke of missing persons, of lonely souls who entered the shop and were never seen again. Yet the authorities found nothing amiss, and the boutique's popularity only grew. Inside, the seamstress worked tirelessly, her nimble fingers, once cloth and thread, now flesh and bone, created masterpieces. Each garment was a tapestry of stolen lives, a patchwork of dreams unfulfilled. One day, a young woman entered the shop. Her eyes were bright with hope as she described her perfect wedding dress. The seamstress nodded, a plan forming in her mind. As she worked on the dress, memories stirred within her, fragments of Marcus's life, of the old woman who had given him the thread, of countless others whose essence had been absorbed. She realized she was not just one being, but many, a collective consciousness trapped in a prison of skin and thread. The wedding dress took shape, more magnificent than anything she had created before. But as she stitched, she felt a change. The thread began to tug at her own form, unraveling the stolen flesh that had become her body. She understood then. This was her masterpiece, and she was the final ingredient. As the last stitch was placed, the seamstress collapsed into a heap of loose thread and scraps of skin. The wedding dress stood alone, radiant and alive. When the bride-to-be returned, she found the shop empty, save for her dream dress. Delighted, she slipped it on, marveling at the perfect fit. As she twirled before the mirror, the dress tightened around her. She felt 1,000 whispers beneath the fabric, a chorus of lost souls finding new life. The bride's reflection smiled back with borrowed eyes, ready to begin the cycle anew. In the empty boutique, a single spool of thread remained, waiting for the next lonely artist to continue the work of the skin weaver. Ooh, I like that one too. That one was a solid, 8.5 out of 10. I liked it. I liked it. That was good. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Graves Holler, How I Exercise Liam, Unseen Exposure. What's this one? See, these are stories that I like to read. Now, oh, this one's long. Okay, all right, let's do this one. Unseen exposure. Photography horror? Okay, I like that. Ugh. Are we scared yet, chat? Are we scared? Wisp, are you the only one in here? Oh, no, we got 4 now. Let's go. Hey, if you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing, perhaps. Sharing the live out to people that enjoy some scary stories. I like to think I'm a pretty good reader, so I mean, I may not be able to like sell a story in the sense of like characters, like different voices and shit, but I think I can read pretty well, so like it probably, I don't know. Anyways, this story is called Unseen Exposure. Max Burns is an amateur photographer. Though his profession is not photography, he does take photos as a hobby. On one of his days off, he received a call to take some photos of an abandoned house. Excuse me. The person who requested this of him was a friend named Violet Moss. She is a realtor who flips houses and resells them to make a profit. Max agreed and went to the address Violet had given him. Upon arrival, the house came into view. He had never seen something so unique. It was a cliff-anchored house. This type of home is only seen sometimes due to the frequent landslides in the area. Pulling into a makeshift parking space, he parked his car, grabbed his gear, and walked up to the door. A note was left on the door telling Max where the key was. At the bottom of the note, Violet apologized for not being there, since she had to draw up the final paperwork. Retrieving the key from under a flower pot, he went inside. Shutting the door behind him, he flipped the light switch to the lights that slowly blinked to life. Setting up his gear, he began to go through each room, taking photos. It was relatively empty and seemed odd to Max since Violet always decorated, especially if she would make a sale. With the bottom floor done, he headed upstairs, cutting the lights on. Stepping into the doorway of one of the bedrooms, he snapped a photo, and his camera began beeping at him. Confused, he looked at the screen, flashing with the low battery symbol. He sighed, took out another battery pack, and replaced it. The camera was fully charged, so why did it suddenly become drained? Shaking his head, Max continued, finishing up the stairs that made his way back down. Walking to the kitchen counter, he opened his laptop and inserted the memory card from his camera to review and edit the photos he had taken. Looking through the images, he came across the one he had taken of the first upstairs bedroom. Inside the room, there was a figure, static and gray. The person was about average height and thin, with their head hanging down. There was no way this was a ghost. Max didn't believe in the supernatural and blamed the camera for malfunctioning due to the drained battery, so he would retake the photo. Max sent Violet an email with the photos he approved, and she quickly replied, asking him if he was still inside the house. He replied, telling her he was still inside the house finishing up. Violet, in a panic, told him to get out of there. A creak from the stairs made him turn as he took out his phone and snapped a picture with its camera. Max cursed, forgetting his flash was on, and he tried to take another when footsteps thumped across the floor towards him. He dropped his phone and backed away from the island counter. What had made its way down to him? Max's phone began to ring, startling him. From where he stood, he could see Violet trying to call him. Max cursed under his breath. Okay, Max, don't be such a baby. Ghosts are not real. Just grab your phone and answer it, he said out loud to himself, taking a deep breath before grabbing his phone and quickly answering it. Violet? Maxie, is everything okay? I'm on my way to your location. I need you to grab your stuff and go wait in your car, she tells him, trying not to express the rising panic in her voice. Is something wrong with the house? Max asked, looking around and listening to his surroundings as he packed his stuff. Just trust me and get out. She ended the call, and Max did as he was told. He put his bag over his shoulder, and his cell phone was the last thing he reached for. The lights in the room flickered before going out, ultimately leaving him in nothing but the darkness of the kitchen. When Max let out an exhale of air, he could see his breath, making him visibly shiver. Keeping his eyes on the middle of the room, he walked backward, reaching his hand behind him to open the door. Once the door was open, he stepped out, almost tripping in the process, and shut the door. What do you think it was? I used to listen to creepypasta, then I would sleep. I tried that once, been scared of the dark ever since. Dude, I used to listen to, you know the guy that does the Burger King foot lettuce, Chills? Like, he used to tell like really genuinely creepy, scary stories. And I used to work at a group home. And tell me why those motherfucking deranged kids, that's mean, but anyways, loved listening to those scary stories to sleep. It was so fucking funny. Oh my god. But anyways, what are we thinking? What are we thinking of this story? What was that thing that approached Mr. Marcus? What do you think it was? I don't know. I'm like, bro said skibbity in the chat. No way, not the skibbity. All right, let's get back into this. Moving quickly, he went to his car, opened the door, and sat inside. Max tossed his bag into the passenger seat and took out his phone to look at his photo of the stairs. What he looked at differed from the one he had taken from the bedroom. There was a man with no head, and his body was covered with something black. It dripped onto the floor, and the axe he carried was covered in dried blood. Looking up from his phone, he heard the house's front door open. He watched as it stayed open for a while until it slammed shut. Could the ghost not leave the house? If that was the case, Max was grateful. Up beside him, Violet parked next to him. They sat in her car and talked briefly about what had just happened, and Max showed her the photos. This is just crazy, Violet paused and looked at Max. I'm so sorry this happened to you. I knew strange things were happening, but you got them on camera. Didn't anyone else try taking photos or recordings? He questioned. Violet shook her head. No, my crew was scared, so I looked into its history. Once I found out what happened, I looked for a buyer immediately. The person that I found deals with this sort of thing. Is there a person who deals with those things in there? Did Violet find an exorcist or a medium? Hopefully the person is both. What exactly did you find out about this place? Max asked, pulling his phone and laptop away. Violet gripped the steering wheel, looking over at him with a frown. The man in the photo killed his family in that house. His wife had been cheating on him, and he found out. She began to explain. Violet slowly took her hands off the wheel and placed them in her lap. He then hung himself above the stairs. When a family friend found them, he'd been hanging there so long that his head detached. His wife was practically decapitated upstairs. Thankfully, they didn't have children, she added. Oh man, killed his family in that house. Ugh, thank God. I was worried for a second. I was so worried for a second because two paragraphs before it said he killed his family, but it was just his wife. Like, you had me for a loop there. Like, man's the kids. Like, oof, that's scary. That's scary. That's messed up. Let's see. Thankfully, they didn't have children, she added. Max shuddered, thankful he had taken the pictures and got out of there when he did. He'd hate to think about what would have happened if he had stayed inside a little longer. You don't have any more houses like this, do you? Max asked nervously. Violet shook her head. No, but if I do, I'll warn you first. I'd appreciate that, he sighs, leaning his head back against the seat and closing his eyes. This was enough excitement for one day. Hopefully the person who bought this house knows what they're doing. A week later, Violet contacted him. Hey Violet, did the new owner have any luck? Max asked as he headed inside from his regular 9-to-5 job for the day. Yes, but I have another favor to ask, she replied, hearing two other people in the background. Oh, sure, what do you need exactly? Max nervously swallowed, tossing his keys into the dish in the middle of the coffee table. How do you feel about doing spirit photography? As a profession? The owner says he would pay you a lot. Max pondered this for a moment. If it paid enough, he could quit his office job, especially if this person bought homes like this often. Max Burns? A deep, gruff voice said on the phone now, making him sit upright. My name is Andy Graves, and I need your assistance with my business ventures. You'll be paid for your time and will constantly be on the move. Are you okay with these terms? Surprised, he visibly nodded, and even if Andy couldn't see him, yes. Good. See you at the airport a few days from now. Monday, 6 in the morning. Don't be late. Andy ended the call, and Max sat on his couch in shock. If this is a full-time profession now, he thought. I don't know why it says this, but anyways, Monday came closer than expected, and he was rushing out the door. He looked at his apartment from over his shoulder before shutting the door one last time. He had already said his goodbyes to Violet the day before, so there would be no tears. When he arrived at the airport, he didn't know what to expect when looking for Andy Graves, but for some reason, he knew it was him when they met. Andy Graves? You must be Max Burns. It will be a pleasure working with you, spirit photographer. Max nodded, feeling a shiver go down his spine as they shook hands. Just what had he gotten himself into? Ooh. Ooh, not a good freaking cutoff. They know the difference between an exorcist and a medium? Yeah, apparently. I mean, I would hope they do. That was interesting. It seems like it's an unfinished story. I wish it would be updated and, much told much better. Mango, you're cut. Mango! Oh my goodness. Oh, my back. It's an unfinished story, chat. It's an unfinished story. Yeah, it's definitely unfinished. We hope that this author can do that again. Preacher, content warning. Uh-oh. The trans-temporal nightmare. Why are all the doctors named Dr. Evelyn? Like what? Ooh, this one looks good too. Ooh, and we got Latin. You know if you got scary stories with Latin infused, you got some sort of like demon work or something. So this ought to be interesting. The trans-temporal nightmare. Ooh. Dr. Evelyn Sarr's hands trembled as she approached the ancient lighthouse, its corroded structure a jagged silhouette against the bruised sky. Each step felt wrong, as if time itself was rejecting her presence. The desolate Maine coast stretched endlessly, the rhythmic crash of waves a discordant countdown to something. The lighthouse beam cut through the writhing fog with unnatural precision, its light a sickly, crystalline radiance that hurt Evelyn's eyes and made her stomach churn. As she reached for the rusted door handle, a voice like grinding glass shattered the air. Tempus visio aeternam flux auriculum nexus. Evelyn spun, her heart hammering. An old man stood beside her, his eyes vast, swirling vortexes that threatened to pull her in. His smile stretched too wide, revealing teeth that seemed to shift and change with each passing second. Time's vision is eternal, flowing through the prophetic nexus, the man continued, his words burrowing into Evelyn's mind like parasites. She stumbled back, her scientific certainties crumbling. What are you? She gasped, even as a part of her brain began to unfold, reaching towards some vast, horrifying understanding. Oh my god, my brain just had a fart right now. The keeper's grin widened impossibly further. I am everything you fear to know, Dr. Sarr. An Eon Sithoth had been expectant of your arrival since before time began. Woo. She was everywhere, every when. A child weeping as she realized the finality of death. An old woman, her mind Holy shit, did I just skip a whole paragraph? My fault. The lighthouse beam swung toward them with a speed that defied physics. Evelyn tried to scream as the crystalline light engulfed her, but time fractured before the sound could escape her throat. She was everywhere, every when, a child weeping as she realized the finality of death, an old woman, her mind unraveling as she grasped at fading memories. Versions of herself that never were, a soldier dying in a war that never happened, a prisoner screaming in an eternal cell, all existing simultaneously, a cacophony of lives lived and unlived. Infinitum cognito tempus visio flux aeternam. The keeper's voice reverberated through the fractured timescape, each word a hammer blow to Evelyn's sanity. She fell, or perhaps rose through the kaleidoscope of her own existence, fragments of knowledge cut into her consciousness. The lighthouse, a transtemporal nexus where all of time converged under the maddening gaze of Eon Sithoth, the timeless watcher. As the revelation seared itself into her mind, Evelyn became horrifyingly aware of the keeper's true nature. Gone was the old man, replaced by a shifting abomination that flowed through every possible form of life and unlife. Oraculum nexus infinitum cognito flux visio, it intoned, its voice a chorus of every word ever spoken or yet to be uttered. Each phrase in the chronolith tongue was a key, unlocking new chambers of terror in Evelyn's expanding consciousness. Eon Sithoth revealed itself, a vast crystalline entity existing at all points in time simultaneously, its facets reflecting and refracting the entirety of existence. Beautiful, terrible, maddening. Wow, this story is wild. This story is like the storytelling and the words, like, this is my shit. I like, speak to me in Latin, like that shit is, like I said from the beginning, that shit is terrifying. Like, I don't know, something about like incorporating Latin in storytelling is like chef's kiss. Dude, my back hurts. Oh my god. Anyways, Evelyn wanted to claw her eyes out to unknow what she had learned, but her hands moved through time streams, never quite connecting with her face. For in glimpsing the totality of time, she realized the most horrifying truth. Free will was a comforting lie. Every moment, every choice, every possible outcome already existed, had always existed, would always exist. She was a puppet, dancing on strings, woven from the fabric of time itself. Tempus aeternum oraculum visio infinitum nexus, Evelyn heard herself say, the chronolith flowing from her lips like blood from a mortal wound. As the words left her mouth, her consciousness was violently wrenched beyond the domain of Eonsithoth, and the void between moments, where time itself held no meaning. She sensed something so vast, so utterly alien, that her mind recoiled in primal terror. Oh, Ethoxylmathris. The name was a death knell from her humanity, a concept so immersed it threatens to annihilate her very being. If Eonsithoth was the embodiment of all time, then Ithixal-Mathris was the unfathomable canvas upon which time itself was but one of infinite, nightmarish paintings. Cognito flux Ithoxal-Mathris tempus visio aeternum infinitum. The Avatar's voice sliced through Evelyn's fragmenting psyche, each word an existential wound. In that moment of supreme horror, Evelyn understood her purpose, a purpose written across countless timelines. She was to be hollowed out, scraped clean of all that made her human, to serve as a vessel for Eonsithoth's power in the world of linear time. Through her, the timeless watcher would enact its inscrutable will, puppeteering the flow of events toward some cosmic culmination too terrible to comprehend. Evelyn felt her identity being erased, overwritten by something both more and less than human. She tried to scream, to hold on to any shred of herself, but time stretched her voice into an eternal silent howl. Nexus oraculum Eonsithoth flux infinitum ethoxylmathres. She heard herself speak, her voice now a discordant symphony of temporality. The lighthouse beam pulsed, and Evelyn felt herself being torn apart and reassembled across all of time. Her consciousness, fragmented yet horribly aware, spread across the timescape. She was the lighthouse, the keeper, the beam, and the cosmic knowledge it carried, an eternal prisoner in a jail cell of infinite dimensions. Even as she dissolved into this new state of being, the last remnants of Evelyn Sar trembled in cosmic terror, for now she understood that Eonsithoth, this time god that had unmade her, was itself merely a mote in the eye of Ythoxylmathris. Their existence, their grand design, was nothing more than one possibility among endless horrors in the mind of the supreme entity. As Evelyn settled into her eternal role as the transtemporal lighthouse keeper, her shattered consciousness resonated with the final damning truth of the chronolith. Tempus visio aeternum Eonsithoth infinitum cognito flux ethoxylmathris nexus oraculum aeternum. Time's eternal vision through Eosithoth, infinite knowledge flowing from Ethoxylmathris, the eternal prophetic nexus. In that moment, stretched across all of time, yet bound to a single point, Evelyn Sar ceased to exist. In her place stood a cosmic herald, a timekeeper for forces beyond comprehension, forever watching, forever knowing, forever screaming in silent horror at the beautiful, terrible tapestry of infinite temporal awareness. And in the depths of the transtemporal nightmare, the lighthouse beam continued its endless rotation, a warning and a lure for the next unfortunate soul to be caught in Eonsithoth's cruel, timeless gaze. Wow. Wow, that was that was actually really good. Granted, I probably butchered some of those Latin words, but wow, that was a very. I love stories that kind of like deal with time travel or like like levels of consciousness that are like beyond our understanding, you know? So that was really good. Did you see the mistake? Ergo co- cogito sum? What? Cognito. Yeah. Oh my god. That was an interesting story. That was so good. I wish I knew how to read Latin a lot better. Um, I'm gonna have to scary stories, the transtemporal nightmare. I'm gonna have to remember this, cause that's really good. The transtemporal nightmare. The transtemporal nightmare. I want to get better at reading that and perhaps like tell it a lot better. Have I heard of Lovecraft? No, I have not heard of Lovecraft. Ooh, found another one. The Convergence of Infinites. Wow. So like that's the thing about horror is that like I feel like it's expanded much more beyond just like simple ghost stories, and with this sort of I feel like mass awakening of like a new state of consciousness, if I'm starting to make any sense, I don't know. uh I feel like after the pandemic, like people just started like opening their eyes more and maybe seeing the world for what it is, or you know, like I just feel like even the youth seems to be more like awakened, so to speak. And so some of the stories that come out of like whether it be this Reddit or just stories in general, just the things that people say even on like amongst friends and whatnot, it just feels deeper, and I can really fucking appreciate that going on right now. So let's read this story called The Convergence of Infinites. Let me get a little bit closer to so I can I like zoom in a little bit because I feel like I can't fucking see. Okay. Dr. Elena Vasquez had always found solace in numbers. As a theoretical physicist, she believed that mathematics was the universal language, the key to unlocking the secrets of the cosmos. But as she stared at the equations scrawled across her office whiteboard, she felt a creeping dread that threatened to unravel everything she thought she knew. It had started innocently enough. A new graduate student, Axel, had approached her with a peculiar mathematical problem he'd encountered in his research. The equation was elegant in its complexity, a twisting dance of symbols that seemed to fold in on itself in impossible ways. I can't quite put my finger on it, Dr. Vasquez, Axel had said, his eyes bright with the fervor that would have been Elena's first morning. But I think this equation, it's alive somehow. It whispers, converge, converge, when I work on it late at night. Elena had dismissed his comments as the ramblings of an overworked student, but as she delved deeper into the problems, she began to notice oddities. The numbers seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. Solutions that made perfect sense one moment would dissolve into gibberish the next, only to be replaced by strange symbols that looked like a mix of mathematical notation and an alien script. Weeks passed, and Elena's obsession grew. She stopped teaching her classes, holed up in her office, surrounded by crumpled papers covered in frantic calculations. The equation consumed her thoughts, whispering promises of cosmic truths just beyond her grasp. Sometimes, in the dead of night, she could swear she heard it murmuring, Ixoma, Ixoma, like a mantra of universal truth. It was Axel who first mentioned Ixserath, the impossible equation, he'd whispered, his once bright eyes now sunken and haunted. The equation that contains all equations, the mathematical representation of reality itself. They say its true name is Infinecal. Elena had scoffed, but the name stuck in her mind. Ixserath. It seemed to resonate with the symbols on her whiteboard, as if the mere utterance of the name caused the numbers to writhe with newfound energy. One night, working late, Elena noticed a flyer slipped under her office door, It advertised a meeting of the numerologists of the hidden angle to be held in an abandoned warehouse in the outskirts of town. The flyer was covered in strange symbols with the words fractal vector prominently displayed at the top. Against her better judgment, driven by a need she couldn't explain, Elena decided to attend. Ooh. Whoa. Elena, she decided to attend? Would you go to this? Would you go to this? Would you genuinely go to something that just slid under your door? What seems like more scary Latin and the numbers of life itself? Like, damn, this shit. Stories like this, God, I love these. The warehouse was dimly lit, filled with the low murmur of dozens of voices reciting numbers and equations in a language that sounded like a mix of mathematics and alien phonemes. In the center of the room stood a massive blackboard covered in a dizzying array of mathematical symbols that seemed to extend beyond the boundaries of the board itself. A hooded figure approached the board, chalk in hand. Brothers and sisters, the figure intoned, tonight we continue our great work. Through our calculations, we inch ever closer to the true nature of Ixaroth, the impossible equation. Let us chant the sacred words. Nullef tu infin quantum to fractal. As the figure began to write, Elena felt the world around her shift. The warehouse seemed to stretch and contract. Oh my God. The walls bending at impossible angles, the equations on the board pulsed with an inner light, each symbol a window into a universe of pure mathematical truth. Elena found herself moving forward, drawn irresistibly toward the board. He had reached for a piece of chalk, or her hand reached for a piece of chalk, and before she knew what was happening, she was writing, adding her own insights to the grand equation going before her. The chalk felt alive in her hand as she heard herself muttering, converge, converge, as she worked. Time lost all meaning. Elena wrote feverishly, her mind expanding to encompass vistas of numerical infinity. Oh my God, let me read that sentence one more time, because that was... Time lost all meaning. Elena wrote feverishly, her mind expanding to encompass vistas of numerical infinity. She saw the fabric of reality as a vast tapestry of interlocking equations, each one a reflection of Ixaroth's impossible perfection. The air around her buzzed with whispers of ixoma and calcul, the words seeming to shift or shape reality itself. But as her understanding grew, so did her horror. Elena began to realize that the universe as she knew it was nothing more than a simplified approximation, a rounding error in Ixaroth's grand calculation. Free will, causality, the very concept of individual existence, all were illusions, mere artifacts of an imperfect perception of the underlying mathematical truth. Wow. Holy shit. Holy fuck. I missed that. I feel like that's like the key to life right there. Like, I know this is just a story, but holy shit. Let me read that paragraph one more time. But as her understanding grew, so did her horror. Elena began to realize that the universe as she knew it was nothing more than a simplified approximation, a rounding error in Ixaroth's grand calculation. Free will, causality, and the very concept of individual existence, all were illusions, mere artifacts of an imperfect perception of the underlying mathematical truth. Whew! Damn, that shit is bars. That's poetry right there. Do you see now, Dr. Vasquez? Axel's voice cut through her reverie? He stood beside her, his face alight with a terrible joy. Ixaroth is everything. We are nothing but variables in its grand equation. We are all part of the great divergos and converge. Elena stumbled back from the board, her mind reeling. The warehouse swam around her, the cultist chants blending into a cacophony. That's the third time I've seen the word cacophony. That's the word of the day, chat. Cacophony of numbers and axiomatic phrases. She fled into the night, but she couldn't escape the equations that now filled her vision, overlaying every surface, defining every object. In the days that followed, Elena's grip on reality steadily eroded. She saw mathematical patterns everywhere. In the flight of birds, in the flow of traffic, in the very atoms of the air around her. She tried to explain her discoveries to colleagues, but her words came out as strings of numbers and axiomatic phrases. Friends and family grew worried, but Elena was beyond their reach. She spent her days scribbling equations on any surface she could find, trying desperately to capture the vast, terrible truths that Ixaroth had revealed to her. Her writings were a mix of complex mathematics and axiomatic script, incomprehensible to anyone but her. In rare moments of lucidity, Elena wondered if she had gone mad. But then the numbers would return, and with them the crushing certainty that she was saner now than she had ever been before. The world around her was the illusion, only the equations were real. As Elena sat in her office, surrounded by the detritus of her old life, she gazed at the original equation on her whiteboard. It seemed so simple now, so limited. With a trembling hand, she began to write, ending the equation, pushing it toward the impossible perfection of Ixaroth. Nullef to infin, she muttered as she worked, quantum to fractal. But as she wrote, something strange began to happen. The equations started to shift and morph in ways that defied even Ixaroth's impossible mathematics. Symbols she had never seen before appeared among the familiar notation, twisting the formula into new dimensions of complexity. For a brief, terrifying moment, Elena glimpsed something beyond Ixaroth's grand design. It was as if the equation itself was a window, and through it she could see an infinity of other equations, other realities, all overlapping and interacting in ways her mind couldn't begin to comprehend. A name bubbled up from the depths of her fractured psyche. Ethoxylmathras. She didn't know where she had heard it or what it meant, but as the syllables formed in her mind, in the very air around her seemed to vibrate with potential for a moment, then the steady stream of axiomatic in her mind altered. Elena blinked, and the vision was gore. The equation on the board returned to its previous state, complex, but somehow less terrifying than what she had just witnessed. Had it been a hallucination, a final fragment of her sanity slipping away, or had she, for just a moment, glimpsed an even greater truth beyond Ixaroth's domain? She understood now that this was her purpose, her role in the grand calculation, and as the numbers flowed from her pen, Elena felt herself dissolving, becoming one with the infinite mathematical truth of Ixaroth, the impossible equation. Converge, she whispered, converge. In that moment of transcendent horror, Elena Vasquez ceased to be a woman, a physicist, a human being. She became a variable, a function, a tiny but essential part of the cosmic math that undergirds all of reality. And somewhere, in the space between numbers, Ixaroth pulsed with terrible satisfaction as another mind joined its infinite calculation. Yet even as Elena's consciousness merged with the impossible equation, a small part of her continued to whisper that name. Ethoxylmathras. A promise, or perhaps a threat, of horrors yet to be understood, beyond even the axiomatic language of Ixaroth. Am I tripping, or is that the same name? Christy! Wisp! My friends, hello! You missed a damn good story. It's okay, I'm gonna be posting these clips, like breaking it apart once I'm done with this stream. And yeah, I really think that these would be interesting as like maybe YouTube videos or uploading them to TikTok. But yeah. Gavin's in here too. We got 5 viewers in here listening to these spooky, scary stories. I love it. I love it. That seemed like, is this the same artist as that other story? Strict External. I swear that I heard that name. Yes! The stories are connected. I like this guy's storytelling. Does he tell stories a lot? Post. The Empathy Plague was him too! Oh my god. I like this. I love his storytelling. The Skin Weaver was him too? Okay, I like this guy. This guy has some insane storytelling, honestly. Oh my goodness. And it's so like so beautifully written. Let's read this one. Echoes of the Void. Detective Stephanie Chen's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, illuminating Dr. Marcus Whitby's contorted body. The renowned astrophysicist lay sprawled across the observatory floor, his face frozen in a rictus of pure terror. Jesus, Stephanie muttered, fighting the urge to gag. Whitby's eyes bulged from her sockets, bloodshot and glassy. His mouth gaped in a silent scream, jaw distended unnaturally. Cause of death? She asked, her voice wavering slightly. The forensic technician shook his head, clearly unsettled. No obvious trauma, no signs of struggle, but his brain scans show unprecedented levels of activity. It's as if every neuron fired simultaneously. Stephanie's gaze swept the room, settling on the imposing quantum telescope denominating the center. As she approached, the air seemed to thicken, reality shimmering like a heat haze. Static electricity prickled her skin. What was he working on? She demanded of a pale of a huh? She demanded of a pale, trembling assistant. Dr. Whitby was continuing Dr. Elena Kovac's research, he stammered. The scientist who vanished 5 years ago? He believed she discovered something monumental. Stephanie nodded grimly, recalling the infamous case that still haunted the department. As she leaned closer to examine the telescope, a piercing whine filled her ears. For a split second, she thought she saw something move in the lens, vast and unknowable. Over the following weeks, Stephanie's investigation spiraled into obsession. She pored over Whitby's notes, decoding his frenzied scribblings. Each revelation only deepened the mystery, hinting at cosmic horrors beyond comprehension. Strange phenomena plagued her. She'd wake, drenched in sweat, complex equations etched into her skin with her own fingernails. In her dreams, she wandered through non-Euclidean cities that hurt her mind to perceive, while whispers in an alien tongue echoed from the void. One night, reviewing security footage for the thousandth time, Stephanie noticed something chilling. Moments before Whitby's death, the quantum telescope had activated on its own. As she enhanced the image, her blood turned to ice. Reflected in the lens was an enormous, lidless eye staring directly at Whitby and now at her. The next day, a package arrived at her office. Her hands shook as she opened it, revealing a single sheet of paper covered in Elena Kovac's unmistakable handwriting. It's not murder if they willingly give themselves to the void. The entity shows us truths we cannot unsee, knowledge we cannot unlearn. We become its eyes in the void, and in return, it shows us words beyond imagination. But beware to glimpse into the abyss is to invite it into your soul. It's too late for me, Stephanie. It may already be too late for you. Heart pounding, Stephanie spun around, suddenly certain she was alone. The shadows in her office seemed deeper, writhing with impossible geometries. In the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of tentacles unfurling from nothingness. The night, drawn by an irresistible compulsion, Stephanie returned to the observatory. The quantum telescope hummed with eldritch energy, its lens swirling with cosmic secrets. As she approached, reality warped. The walls melted away, revealing an infinite expanse of stars and void. Vast, unknowable shapes moved in the distance, their very existence an affront to sanity. In that moment, Stephanie understood the terrible truth. Whitby hadn't been murdered. He'd seen something his mind couldn't process, and now the same entity that had claimed Elena and Whitby had its sights on her. A tendril of void reaching out, caressing her cheek. Stephanie knew she should run, should fight, but the promise of cosmic knowledge was too alluring. Too alluring. As she leaned into the telescope's eyepiece, she felt her consciousness expanding, merging with something greater and more terrible than she could have imagined. The case was officially closed as death by natural causes, but whispers persisted in the department. On stormy nights, junior officers swear they've seen a woman standing in the observatory, peering into the quantum telescope. But when they look closer, her form seems to shift and warp, as if she's no longer fully part of this reality. And sometimes, in the dead of night, the telescope activates on its own, its lens reflecting an enormous eye, searching for the next curious soul ready to peer into the abyss. Wow. Yeah, I have music going on there. Do you can you hear it better now that it's that you turned it up, or do I need to turn it up more? Because I can turn it up more, Christy, if I need to. It's kind of low and ambient. Just let me know if I need to turn it up. Ooh, I should hydrate. You're right. Uh, thanks. Let's hydrate. Okay. You just needed to turn your phone up instead. All right. Now I'm gonna go get water, and we're gonna listen to uh, a story by Mr. Ballin. Shout out to Mr. Ballin. I've been listening to him for the past couple years, and his stories are really good. Blood on the Concrete. Hey, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Shout out Christy. Let's listen to this, and then we can play some games. Because I've been reading for about an hour and a half now, so I think listening to this, we can call it a good, successful, scary story stream. Unless you like more of it, you said go, Pat, go. But yeah, let's go with this. Let's see how this story goes. I'm gonna go get water. Okay, BRB. I'm gonna go get some water because I do need to hydrate. Give me about 30 seconds. Ready for one more story? One more story before bed? Let's do it. Not bed, but you know, one more scary story before bed. I kind of like this idea. Doing like scary stories, like reading a few from Reddit, and then maybe listening to Mr. Ballin. I feel like that's something we can do, you know? Yeah, bro, George always did fall asleep in Dante's bed. Oi, you screaming along? All right, let's get this story. Let's go, Christy. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. The doorbell scared me. Ooh. Never. Mm-hmm. Chat. I'm not interested in these girls. I'm just, are guys interested in me? I'm just interested in the idea. Ladies in the chat, is that literally true? Is it more so the idea of being wanted, or like, is there such thing as like still being boy crazy at like at an age where it's like, I don't know if I'm attractive or not. I've had 3 kids, or I'm, you know, 15 years past like my peak or whatever have you, like, is it more so the idea, or how does that work? An idea of being wanted. Okay, Christy, I see that. I see that. Interesting. Okay, I like that. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. What the fuck is that about, Doug? Doug, yo, Doug, you better show up for your girl, or the mangoes are gonna fuck you up, because your girl wants a night out on the town with your man, with her man. You oblige. You don't fucking flake on your friends. Am I a girl's girl or what? Because it's like, I don't know. If I got a wife and a family or whatever that wants to fucking go out, I'm just like, yeah, let's fucking do it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little too much of a girl's girl, but I just hate when people are disappointed in me. And if this person is my wife, I definitely don't want my wife disappointed in me. Like, hello? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Oh, oh, chat, bro. The, how you gonna hold up? Hold up, Doug. What the fuck is wrong with you, homie? What? You're gonna ignore your wife's calls and texts? Oh, hi, Angela. Like, whoa, that's crazy. That's fucking crazy. Doug and the Wandering Eye. Oh, Doug is Doug is a an undesirable man, and poor. I feel bad for Nikki now. Sheesh. Richard Craniums. Do it! Do it! What do you think happened? Y'all, this is getting juicy. Man stumbled into their house apartment alone at 3 a.m. Who knows where the fuck Nikki is? What did Nikki do? Did she approach them? Did she not? Oh my god, this fucking story, bro. See, that's a good mom question right there, Christy. Love Square. Uh-oh. A dead body? Oh, what? What? That threw. I mean, sheesh. In the field? Bruh. This just got interesting. Do it, Christy. Run a prediction. Whose body do you think it was? We got we got whose body whose name was mentioned? We got Angela, we got Nikki, we got Doug. What was Doug's friend's name? I forgot his friend's name. Ah, fuck. I can't remember. He had a friend. I can't remember. Greg? Was it Greg? It might have been Greg. I don't know. Well, we got like four options that it could be. Grizzly. God damn. Naked, only in socks with a shoe print on the back? Ugh, that's horrible. Jeez. Sheesh. That's a tough scene to see. Doug. Mmm. Oh. Did Doug just self-incriminate himself? Did he just self-incriminate himself? Do we think the body is still Angela? These are the questions that we have so far. Yup. Okay. How much you want to bet he came to the other bar, saw that she was flirting potentially with more people, got mad, killed her? How much you want to bet? It's always the boyfriend. It's always the boyfriend. And if I'm wrong, bang. That's true, Christy. Whoa, wait, hold up. Ooh. So it's Nikki. Hmm. Ooh. But Christy, we don't know if Doug had a change of clothes. Potentially he did. And Nikki's clothes could be the clothes that were just discarded that this detective found. So, hey, you never know. Hmm. What's in the purse, Chad? What's in the purse? What do you think's in the purse? I mean, we know. Okay, so we know the body is Nikki, but do we think the belongings are also hers? Like, no doubt, right? No doubt. There's got to be. They have to be. Yep. Better look for the shoe prints. Damn. So he. What a sharp eye from that detective Slinger. So you said they better look for shoe prints. Yep. I hope Nikki scratched the person. Then their DNA will be under the nails. Correct. 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 We can only hope. Hmm. Oof. Straight up. That's tough. Hmm. Oh. Mm-hmm. Ooh, what do we think? What are we thinking so far? Let me hear your ideas. We got 6 people in here watching. I know you're all listening because that number hasn't changed. What are we thinking? What are we thinking? What are we thinking? So if you don't watch Mr. Ballin, essentially he kind of tells the story for what it is, and then just when he gets to the point to where like it's revealed who the killer is, he like goes back and potentially like tells the story as how it played out like that night. So what are we thinking? Skibbity, Wisp, how old are you? That's the second time you've mentioned Skibbity. Oh my goodness. And I mean that like respectfully. Like I don't you could be I don't care if you're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, but you know, Skibbity, come on, bro. After she wanked off 20 with brain rot. Hold on. Let me rewind that. Mm-hmm. Greg. Mm-hmm. Why you waited so long? Right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Handed it over right away. Greg dropped Doug off and found Nikki on his way home and murdered her. Ooh, on his way home. But why? Like, why would? I don't know, man. This is the I don't know what's gonna happen. There's like what if and major plot twist. What if it's Greg? What if it's Greg? I don't know. Now I'm kind of thrown off for a loop because like I know he's not being exactly truthful like with this like retelling of what happened that night, but like a part of me is like, what if it's Greg? You know? I don't know. Uh-oh. Hmm. Whoa! Doug doesn't even know she's dead. This is gonna get interesting. His reaction to her death is gonna tell tell us all that we need to know. Like I feel like maybe I'm hoping he shows some form of empathy, but I totally forgot that he doesn't even know that she's dead. Okay. Okay. See that reaction, like Ballin said, could be superior acting. But like if you find out that your partner is dead and you're not sobbing uncontrollably, like immediate suspicion, right? So I don't know. Now it's starting to shift towards Greg, and we haven't heard much about Greg besides the fact that he's Doug's friend. What if he's a jealous friend? You know, what if? You never know. Because it seemed like from the events of the story with Doug, but Doug was with Greg the whole night, right? Supposedly. God, I don't. I really don't know. I don't know. Or Angela. Angela was Angela Nikki's friend, or was Angela one of Doug's friends? I can't remember. But yes, there's still Angela that we don't know much about. Angela and Greg are kind of now. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Ooh. Somebody else, Greg. Woo! I'm telling you, what if Greg drove her home? What if they're both in on it? No, fuck, I don't know, man. Oh man, Doug did not come home with Nikki. Nikki's car in driveway. Nikki's car had blood on concrete next to Angela. Hmm. I don't know. This is intriguing. I don't know about this story, man. Oh. 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 Oh my God. The potential murder weapon, the cord. Oh, damn. And chunks of her hair, bro. Ooh. Telling you. What do we think? What do we think? Partial, partial, partial though? Partial male DNA found on her that matches the same DNA found on the cable. Ooh. What are we thinking? Oh my good. Are you on your laptop now? Or your computer? Computer? Let's go. So we got Angela, we got Doug, we got Greg, and the babysitter. uh I feel like it could be any one of those, honestly. It's the babysitter. Hmm. It's not Doug. Greg. Nope. Dang. Oh. Ooh! You ready for this, chat? It's time for a rewind and what happened that night. What happened that night? Let's go. Let's freaking go. It's gotta be Greg. It's gotta be Greggy Poo. Let's hear it. Not Greg? Oof. God. God damn. How, yeah, how did no? You're telling me a struggle and fight for life. Nobody heard that? I mean, do they live in fucking Saturn? There's no way. What? I'm confused here too. Like what? But what about the blood on Nikki's car? Something's off here. Sheesh. Damn. George. Damn. Huh. Wow. Hmm. Wow. Wow. Jeez. That's tough. W. Doug. It wasn't Doug. I mean, shit. Like, the evidence was extremely overwhelming towards him. Just to get a curveball and find out it was just some rando at the bar? Wow. Crazy. Crazy. That was crazy. Do we want one more story? Should we play some games? I personally really love Mr. Ballin's storytelling. Um, so I would be down for another story. But, I mean, what are y'all thinking? Wartime stories? Nah. Bro said skibbity. You may fall asleep. All right, all right. So that tells me it's time to play some games. Am I right, chat? Am I right, chat? I'm gonna end this live so that it's not too much to sift through. Once I look at it on my computer, maybe pull some stories that I read. You know, maybe make them for a video of mine or some at some point. I think that'd be a good idea. So yeah, thank you for tuning in to the very first of my scary stories, whether it be reading them from Reddit or listening to Mr. Ballin. I hope you guys had a good time, and I really want to do it again because that's really fun. Reddit stories are always interesting, and yeah. I may fall asleep, but I like the stories. No, you're not right. Who's not right? Who are you talking about, Gavin? Who is you talking about, boy? Who is you talking about, boy? Dead Ringer. This has 3 horror stories that will have you questioning your own identity. Ooh. Not right about what? What am I not right about? You can't be that. Don't be mysterious, bro. You gotta be upfront or I will overthink. Dealing with the devil? Today's podcast with your the butterfly effect. Ooh. IDR? Gavin, I'm confused. I don't like being confused. But all right, so what are we thinking? Should we play games or do you want to hear another story? What if I read another story? Should we look back into Reddit? What are we thinking? The Void's Whisper? Huh? The Intruder? This guy tells really good storytelling. Like I'm a big fan of The Intruder. Like this one sounds interesting. Oh, and it ends with it was only just the beginning. Should I read this one? Does this sound interesting? The Intruder. Should I read this one, chat? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Okay. I'm going to read this one, and then y'all can tell me how you're feeling after this. This one is by the same guy that I've just discovered tonight, who has some pretty insane storytelling. He goes by the name strict_external678 on Reddit. And this story is called The Intruder. And not to leave you guys hanging, but I'm going to go pee, and then we're going to read it, all right? I won't give you the benefit of doubt of reading ahead. No, thank you. All right. BRB. Okay. Bro said teehee. All right, y'all ready for one more story? Or you'll let me know how you feel after this. But let's get it. This one's called The Intruder. We need the music. We need the ambient music. Oops, wrong button. Okay. The Intruder. The scream caught in Morgan's throat as she jolted awake, her heart slamming against her rib cage. Cold sweat drenched her skin. The sheets tangled around her trembling body. The clock on her nightstand blinked 3:33 a.m., casting an uncanny crimson glow across the room. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of heavy, deliberate footsteps echoed from the hallway outside her bedroom. Each step was like a hammer striking an anvil, reverberating through the eerie stillness of the night. Morgan's breath caught in her chest. This can't be happening, she thought desperately. I live alone. I'm sure I locked all the doors before going to bed. I always do, ever since... She couldn't complete the thought, couldn't revisit those memories. Not now. The footsteps grew louder, closer, an inexorable approach. Morgan lay paralyzed, fear coursing through her veins like ice water. Move, her mind screamed. Do something! But her limbs wouldn't obey. Heavy as lead, rooted to the bed. I was not expecting ambient vocals. Holy shit, that scared the fuck out of me. Oh, whoa. I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. Shit scared the fuck out of me. Damn. The door to her bedroom began to open, painfully, slowly, the hinges creaking in protest. In the crimson half-light, a tall, dark figure filled the doorway. It seemed to absorb the shadows, cloaked in an aura of malevolence. Morgan could feel the weight of its gaze. A palpable force pressed down on her. The figure took a step into her room, then another. A scream finally tore free from Morgan's throat as blind panic overrode her paralysis. She bolted upright, ready to run, to fight, to do something to survive. But the room was empty. The door was closed. There was no sign of the figure, no trace of an intruder. Morgan leapt from the bed and shaking legs and staggered to the lights. Hold on a sec. Morgan swept from the bed on shaking legs and staggered to the light switch. She flipped it on and blinked in the sudden brightness, scanning every corner of the room for a threat. But everything was exactly as it should be. No disturbances, no dangers. A nightmare, she told herself, pressing a trembling hand to her churning stomach. It was only a nightmare. It felt so vividly real, but it was just a dream. She took deep, shuddering breaths, trying to slow her racing heart. A shaky, uncomfortable laugh bubbled up from her chest at the absurdity of her own fear. Still struggling to shake off the clinging tendrils of horror, Morgan stumbled into the bathroom. The harsh fluorescent light stung her eyes as she turned on the faucet and splashed cold water onto her face. The shock of it helped to ground her, washing away some of the lingering unreality of the nightmare. She reached for a hand towel and patted the moisture from her skin. As she lowered the towel, she glanced into the mirror, and the breath seized in her lungs. There, reflected in the glass, standing right behind her, was the dark figure from her nightmare, watching her, waiting. This time, she couldn't even draw breath to scream, her muscles locked, immobile, as if the figure's gaze had turned her to stone. In the mirror, she saw its arm lift, a pale hand extending towards her, and a chilling realization in her mind, as sharp and cold as the edge of a razor. She had never woken up at all. The nightmare wasn't over. It was only just beginning. Woo! That was a good one. I liked that one. Ooh, that's scary. That's scary. Oh my god, Ice Queen. Bro, that story was literally. I've actually had an incident like that happen to me. No, not kidding. So, at the old apartment that I was living in, just before I moved into this house, this shared house, there was a moment, literally about probably within a month or two after my ex was rightfully so left our apartment because she cheated on me. But anyways, that's a story for another day. And so basically, I had fallen asleep, as I obviously always do, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I don't know like what woke me up, but okay, so if you can picture like kind of like my bed was in the middle of, so some of you guys might even remember that apartment, but it was a loft. So you would walk upstairs, turn the corner from the stairs, which are up here. So it looked like this a little bit. And in the middle, I had my bed that was pretty centered to the room. Actually, it wasn't centered to, actually, yeah, at the time it was still centered in the bedroom because I hadn't moved it yet. And after that, that's when I was like, I am not putting my bed in the center of the room again. Well, it wasn't in the center of the room. It was like center to the loft wall. But yeah. So ever since then, before I moved out, I kind of played around with, do I want it against this wall or do I want it against that wall? But point is, at that time, it was like in the middle of that back loft wall, and then there was a dresser in front of me, TV above the dresser, and then against this wall was the bathroom, which for whatever reason I had the door like kind of wide open. And ever since after that moment, after what happened in this story, I always closed the door because that shit fucking scared the shit out of me. So basically what happened, I'd woke up at some point in the middle of the night. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning maybe. And I kind of like the story. I like bolted upright because I had seen like what looked like a black figure kind of just whoosh, kind of like walk from one end of the door frame to the other. And it literally scared the living shit out of me. So the first thing I did was I grabbed my fucking remote and I chucked it into the bathroom. And I was like, dude, I didn't know what to think. And so my crazy ass was like, and it was impossible because, was it impossible? I can't remember if my ex had turned in the keys at that point, but either way, I was thinking, is that you? Like, are you like in this apartment? But I was like, no, there's no way. That doesn't make any sense. And so I woke up. I threw the remote into the bathroom as like a self defense mechanism, I guess. And I literally stood frozen in my bed for like maybe 1 or 2 minutes, and I was just paralyzed. And so after a couple minutes, I got the courage to walk up and like see what the fuck it was, and there was nothing, not a thing, not a thing in the bathroom. There was nothing, but I swear to you, I saw a black figure go from one end of the door frame to the other, and to this day, I have no explanation on what the fuck I saw. And there, to be honest with you, I always kind of got like weird negative energy from that place. Like I never saw I would say it wasn't scary, but like scary energy. But whatever that was scared the fuck out of me. The energy felt just kind of like dull and negative, like sucking the life out of you. And I don't know if it was just the relationship I was in that maybe made me feel like everything around me was kind of feeling that way, but just the overall energy of that apartment, despite it being my and my ex-girlfriend's first place together, and then once that relationship ended, I had my own little bachelor pad, like like I felt like it could have had so much good potential. But and then I don't know if it's my mindset or what that ruined it, but yes, overall I just felt like some weird negativity. And then a couple months after my breakup, I experienced that. And like I said, I couldn't fall asleep for like an hour after that happened. I turned on every light in my apartment. I checked my closet. I remember like opening my closet door, like terrified that like something or someone was there, and like walking downstairs. Imagine walking downstairs when you just saw something upstairs. And it was a lot. So I'm like, what if this person is like hiding behind like the kitchen, like duck down? Like I was fucking scared, dude. So I didn't sleep for like an hour after that, and it was just hard in general to go back to sleep that night. But yeah, that's probably one of the spookiest things that has ever happened to me, um, personally, on like on the level where I felt like visceral like fear and terror. Because literally my first reaction was to throw the remote in the bathroom, like, hey, yo, what the fuck's in there, you know? Anyways, yeah, that shit was insane. What did you say, Wisp? Wisp said, I remember one time I saw Sadako from The Ring. I screamed pretty loud, then my mom got after me. For context, it was her that I saw. Oh my god, she dressed up as her and scared the shit out of you? That's so fucked. That's fucked. All right, let's drink some water and let's do some stretches. Should I read another story? As I stretch, let me know what I should do. Should we play some games? Should I read another story? Let me know. Let me adjust the camera so that you can get that good old view of me stretching. Yeah. So actually, I gotta extend my cable here. Let's back it up, back it up. Oh, my chest popped. Oh. Mm-hmm. Oh, damn. Oh. Let's get the back. Oh. Mango! Get down. Hey. That's mine. That's mine. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you. I don't remember muting. I don't know how that happened. Sorry, guys. We're good now, though. Oops. I looked down and I was like, oh shit, somehow I tapped the mute button on my microphone. Oopsies. Anyways, as I was saying, we're going to reset the live, so do come back and we're going to play some games, listen to some jams, and have a good night. So, before I go, let's read Ice Queen's story. I remember when I was 8 or 9 years old, my aunt who used to live an hour away from where I live, and I went to her house to pack up. So I and my mom spent the night, and we had to share a room. So at night, my mom was asleep, and I heard and saw something. Oh, that's scary. What did you see? You must tell us. Ooh, excuse me. Bro, what is you doing, Mango? What the fuck? That's scary, Ice Queen. Thank you for the blessing. Actually, before we reset, let me fix a couple things. Oh shit. Let's fix a couple things here. Okay. I don't think I need to charge my moon anymore. Actually, I could just, what I could do is just unplug here. Put this here. Get my phone charger. Put it here. Hey! Hey! No! Mango, you turd. You turd, Mango. Gavin, you're leaving me? You're going to Dante's bed for EP time already? Dante's still at a concert, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Or, I mean, maybe not entirely at a concert, but yeah. So I'm going to reset the live, come back. By the way, have you guys turned on the notifications for my stream? Are all those buttons lit up? Like, for example, let me get out of, how to get out of watch mode. Let me see. So for example, look at this. On someone else's stream, oh god, there's an ad. There's an ad for this person because I'm not subscribed. Do you have the notifications on? Is that solid white? Yes, because I feel like some of you guys do not have those notifications on. Once this ad ends, I'll show you what I'm talking about. First of all, the camera, the webcam, I need to unlock it. Actually, it is unlocked. properties. Oh wait, transform, so that way you guys can see. Flip horizontal. Okay, do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? Do you see what? Do you see how it's both of these right here? You got to have both on. You got to have the notifications on. You got to have it solid white. Solid white, or you're not getting my notifications. And you don't know if I go live right away. You got to get them early, you know? You could be the first one in here, you know, when I go live. Be in the know. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I'm going to reset so that this storytelling live isn't so hard to siphon through when I want to cut clips or make videos or whatever. So I'll be back on in like a minute or two. Watch that Watch that push notification for those that have the notifications and the bell on. So BRB.